Howdy, folks. This hair makes me feel like some kind of 70s, 80s rocker. Today for this video, we are going to be doing a little project. I think they're called ribbon dolls. I'm going to show some examples here. They were a very popular craft in the 20s, I think it was. And they're just so cute, and I wanted to do something like this. I see them on Pinterest and stuff, and I thought, that seems like an easy enough craft. It's just drawing a girl on paper and then putting some fabric down on it. So I have that. I have fabric and I have girl drawing ability. I can do that. It seems easy enough. So that's what we're gonna do. I don't really need to get any materials for this project because I already have them. I got pan pastels and I got a box full of trim from all of the other times, an accumulation of previous craft projects where I would need trim, and then I just have a box of a ton of trim. So I thought, perfect, what a great idea. So that's what we're gonna do today. We're just gonna jump right into it. So let's go to top-down mode. So the first thing I did was I had sketched general idea of what I wanted my girl's pose to be and kind of like what her outfit was going to be on my iPad. And then I treated my iPad basically like a light box and traced my sketch onto the paper. I feel like this way is just easier for me. Doing a bunch of sketches on my iPad allows me to kind of noodle around until I get something that I like. And then I can transfer the final design onto the paper. It saves me a lot of mess ups and erasing and all of that type of stuff. Once that was done, I just solidified my lines a little more, and then I went in with my pan pastels and started just shading the skin. I didn't have to worry about the clothes or anything because that was going to be fabric. I shaded where I felt like you would see skin and also gave a little bit of room just in case I wanted to move some of the fabric around. So I shaded like down to her chest and then into her thighs and everything, even though I was pretty sure you wouldn't see all of it. I just really love pan pastels though. They blend so smoothly and so nicely. I do this on a pastel paper, so paper meant for pastels. And as you can tell, I use a variety of different kinds of brushes to blend and everything. I like to use these very thin brushes so that I can get more detailed lines.
For the tiny details, I use a combination of my watercolor pencils and my chalk pastel pencils. And I use that just to really get all of the small things like the lines in the ears, the eyes, the eyebrows, the lips, and then also to define the edges of the body more. And then that way I can kind of layer on even more pan pastels and just kind of blend it all seamlessly. I forgot to mention that my pose and this whole illustration was inspired by this illustration from the 1920s. I was gonna do something with dogs, but I was like, I've done so many dog things, and even though I love dogs, I also really, really love birds. And my first pets, besides fish, were cockatiels, and I've just always really, really loved birds a lot. And I've been a big fan of parrots. I think that conures are really great. And for a long time I was looking into getting Indian ringnecks because I thought that they were so pretty and I loved the way that they like talked and everything. But now my biggest fascination is on pigeons. I want to adopt a pigeon so freaking bad. I follow a bunch of pigeon adoption things on TikTok. Oh my gosh, my dream would be to have like a little aviary in my backyard or something that I just had some pigeons. I love birds. I love pigeons, but I also just love parrots. I think macaws are really pretty and I love African greys, but I know that I do not have the ability to take care of them. They need such a huge cage and they need so much mental stimulation, and I'm just always worried I would never be able to provide something like that. But they're such cool birds. My hope is that if my husband and I have kids, that maybe my kids will become really into birds and then we can get a bunch of birds, because then I have kids who are like interested in taking care of them. So we have like an extra hand, another person, you know, and then we'll just be a big happy family with a bunch of dogs and a bunch of birds. And then, I don't know, maybe some other animals. Little weird side note, that's like one of the things that I think about if I ever have kids, like, because I love animals so much, I always wonder what type of animals they might be into. And then we would just have a bunch of cool animals in our house. I don't know. I want to be a very pet-friendly household. Sound off down below if you are a household with many pets. I want to know about everybody's pets because I don't know, I just always think that that's so cool when people have like a ton of different animals and that they also like take care of them really well. Because it's one thing to have like 50 animals and then be like an animal hoarder. And it's another to have a bunch of pets that you take care of like very well. But yeah, let me know if you have a bunch of pets. Sound off below on what you have. And also who takes care of what. So now we get to the part with the fabric. I figured I would just glue the fabric on. In retrospect, bad idea, don't do this. I also probably should have looked up like at least one tutorial or something on how people did this instead of just looking at photos and going, I could do that, and then like, I don't know, figuring it out as I went. This is also just kind of how my brain works a lot of the times, is I impulsively go, I could do that, and then I just kind of wing it. And a lot of the times it works out, sometimes it doesn't. This one, in the end, kind of like, it was okay. But I do think I probably should have watched or seen or read or something, just like one little tutorial just to see exactly what they did. And then I would have been like, oh, okay, I see. Instead of just kind of figuring out as I went. But for the most part, I just took like little bits and pieces of all of the different types of trim that I had. And I was just cutting pieces and gluing pieces down and finagling things so that it worked and it fit. Eventually, I went in with a needle and thread to sew things together, and that worked better. I don't know why I didn't do that in the first place. I guess because I felt like it was weird to initially sew through paper, but it worked better than glue, to be honest. So pro tip, if you're gonna do this, just like sew it on instead. I also kind of traced out exactly where I wanted the skirt to be, so I had like a rough guideline of what to follow. But I just was layering on my different types of lace trim, putting glue down, layering it, and trying to scoot the trim a little bit so it looked like she was holding it up. I don't know, to be honest, a lot of this was me just kind of messing around and seeing what worked and what didn't. So there was no true rhyme or reason to everything I was doing. It was just putting pieces down going, that looks good, and then, I don't know, just moving forward. So this was the point where I started sewing it on, because that way I could kind of bunch the fabric up to make it look like she was gripping it there, if that makes sense. I will say it was kind of hard to sew, specifically because I was sewing in spots where there was still glue, so it was still kind of like wet, which made it hard to pierce the paper, and then it would kind of rip the paper in the back. It was kind of a mess on the back, but luckily you don't see the back. So it's all good, and I could hide my mistakes under other layers of fabric. Yay, we love that. I also wanted her dress to be really big and poofy because a lot of the other ribbon dolls, their designs are like really big and poofy and almost like rectangular, as weird as that sounds. So I was trying to emulate that, and I think I did an okay job, I'll say. Just an okay job. She kind of turned out more rectangular, like not as flowy and a little more rectangular than I would have liked. But I added on some little embellishments. I had this little floral trim. I had a follower who sent me a ton of vintage trims and some vintage doll hair, which I also used here too, which I forget the name of the person who did it, but shout out if you know who you are. Shout out, thank you. I use these trims and these hairs all the time. So thank you so much. So I am using this like vintage doll hair as well, and I cut it down into this kind of 1920s-ish bob. And because the hair is already braided, it gives these nice finger waves. So I thought that that was perfect for like this 1920s-ish hairstyle. So I just kind of glued that on and then gave her some bangs, and then also put a flower on top. Just some little bows and embellishments to make it cute and pretty. And now the final part of this project was to cut her out and cut out her little bird friend. A lot of these little ribbon dolls were sat on, honestly, it looks like maybe velour or a velvet background, but I didn't have that. I just had some black foam, so I used that as my backing. So I just cut her out and then I glued her onto some black foam, and then that was it. She's done. So let's go see the final result. That is about it for this project. Overall, I just feel okay about it. Like, I'm not excited about it, but I don't hate it, I guess. I was contemplating not even making the video, but a part of me feels like it's still important sometimes to show when I make things that I'm not particularly fond of or happy with, because I feel like it helps stop the stigma that sometimes artists, especially artists that you see online, are always banging out amazing things over and over again, just like super easily with no problem. And that a lot of times artists make things and go like, I don't think this worked the way that I wanted it to. And I think that's okay. I think it's fun to experiment. I still had fun doing this project and I learned a lot, and I feel like if I did it again, I would have a better understanding of it. And I think a lot of the times we forget as artists that a whole part of the artistic journey is to enjoy the journey and enjoy the process and learn as we go. And it's not always about putting out an absolute perfect piece. So it's just something that I like to remind myself of, and maybe it's some helpful advice for you too. Let me know down below if you liked it and you want to see more. Leave a like if you can, because it helps me a super bunch, and also subscribe if you haven't already, because I make fun little cute crafty artsy content like this all the time. I also have a Ko-Fi or Ko-fi or whatever. I have a sticker club, and I also have a store where I sell merch and a print shop as well. So you can find them down below in the little box. And that's about it. Okay, bye-bye.